Hello, Professor Brooks. I'm going to explain with this video how the second part of the project was developed. So let's begin. To do the second part of the project, I created three Java programs, which are author.java, paper.java, and paper review driver 2.java. The first Java program, which is author.java, let's talk about the author.java program. The author.java program implement the author class. The author class was created with the purpose to control and manipulate the author table in my database. Okay, so this class contains three declarations such as author email, author first name, and author last name. Also contains four constants, which are JDBC driver, the host database, okay, which contained my database name. As you can see here, it's DB underscore paper underscore reviewers. Also, we have the constant for to hold the user database, and finally the password constant for the database password. We have our constructors here, and also we have the setters: set author's email, set author first name, set author's last name. Also, we have the getters: get author email, get author first name, and get author last name. The author class implements the following methods. The first method is the get count authors. This method returns an int value and doesn't receive any parameters. And basically, this method returns the number of authors in the author table. The query that we have for getting the number of author, it's a basic select statement which count all the authors from the T author table. Okay, I count how many records we have in T author, and then I return the count authors variable for getting the number of authors in the author table. The second Java class method is the author exists. Okay, the method author exists validates if an author exists in the author table. This method returns a Boolean expression and received as a parameter the author email. The query for validate if an author exists is just a basic select that counts how many authors exist in the author table. So we have the select count asterisk as count author from the author, where the email address is equal to the author email that we received as a input parameter. Then I execute the SQL query variable into the prepared select object, and we pass the we assign the parameter author email to that query. Okay, we got it here, and then we get how many authors we received from the database. The rs result set variable returns the amount of authors that exist in the t-author table. Then I return true if the author was found in the database, or false if the author wasn't found in the database. The third method of the Java class is add new author. This method inserts a new author in t-author table. Also, the add new author method received as an input parameter the author's email, which is a string, received the first name of the author, which is a string too, and also received the last name of the author. The query for inserting a new author consists of an insert into t-author table, and we pass the parameters that our method received as input parameters. So basically we have the insert into t-author table, the values email address, first name, and last name. We received all the parameters that were passed to our add new author method. I have the prepared insert object, okay, that received the SQL query. Also, in the prepared insert object, we set all the parameters that we passed to the add new author method. We got the author's email, we got the author's first name, we got the author's last name. Finally, we execute the query through the execute update method. Also, I capture the amount of records that were inserted into the t-author table in the insertions variable, and that's the add new author method. The last method of my author class is the delete author method. This method received as input parameter the author ID. This method implements the delete from t-author query, and the word clause it's confirmed by the author ID equal to the author ID that was passed as input parameter. We have also the connection object, which received the host database, the user and password database. We got also the prepare delete object, that it's the object that I'm going to use to execute the query. And also, I forgot to mention that this prepared object received as parameter the author ID. And finally, through the prepare delete object, we call the execute update method to execute the deletion up to the t-author table. Let's talk about now about the paper class. The paper class was built with the purpose of control and manipulate all the data of the t-paper table. For the paper class, we have the following declarations. We got the author emails, we have the title of the paper, also we have the abstract of the paper, and finally we have the file name of the paper. The paper class also contains some constants, which are the JDCB driver, the host database. Okay, as you can see here, we have the DB underscore paper underscore reviewers, database name, we got the user database, and finally we got the password to my database. We got two constructors. We have the default constructor and also an additional constructor that received the author email, the title of the paper, the abstract of the paper, and the file of the paper. It's important to mention that all these parameters are a string data type. This class also contains uh, some getters, such as the get author email. We got the get paper title, get paper abstract, and get file name. The first method of the paper class is getCountPapers submitted. The method getCountPapers submitted returns the number of papers submitted in tPaper table. It's important to mention that this method returns an int value, and the query that is executed is a select statement that counts the numbers of papers that exist into the tPaper table. To execute that query, I declared the connection object, which received the host database, user database, and password database. Also, we got the prepared select object that execute the connection, that execute the query through the connection object previously declared. Also, we got the result set object to execute the query through the execute query method. And here in this while, we go through the result set and we receive, or we get, the amount of papers submitted in the tPaper table. Finally, we return the paper submitted variable as a value of the number of records that exist in tPaper table. The second method of my paper class is the method getPaperByAuthorEmail. This method received as parameter the author email, and uh, we can say that the getPaperByAuthorEmail method returns the information of all papers submitted by a particular author. The query implemented into this method consists of a basic select statement that returns the paper ID, the paper title, paper abstract, also the author email address, the author first name, and the author last name. The from clause is tPaper. Okay, I assigned the p alias to this table. We got an inner join with the tAuthor table. Also, I assigned an alias to this table, and the join condition is paper email address equal to author email address. And finally, we have the where clause that is based on the following condition: paper email address equal to the author email that is passed to the method as input parameter. Then, to execute that query, we define the connection object to my database. We pass to the getConnection method the host database. We pass the user database, and also we pass the password database all of them as input parameters. Also, we got here the prepared select object that is based on the prepared statement object. Okay, through this object, we call the prepared statement method, and we pass as input parameter the SQL query variable. We also, through the prepare select object, we set the parameter that we are passing to that query. Okay, so we use the author email input parameter, and then finally we got the result set object to execute the query through the execute query method. We got this while to go through our result set object, and all the values that were returned, or now we have all the values that are returned by our query through the result set object. We assign those values to these variables. We got the paper title, the paper abstract, the paper author email, the paper first name, and the paper last name. And finally, we just display the values on the screen. The third method of my paper class is getPaperReviews, which returns the information of a particular paper. The getPaperReviews method received as input parameter the paper ID. Well, the SQL query that I'm going to execute in this method is conformed by a select statement that returns all the fields, or yes, all the attributes from the review table. We got an inner join instruction, okay, with the paper table, and the inner join condition is conformed by the paper ID from review equal to paper ID from paper. The work clause is conformed by the condition review paper ID equal to the paper ID that is passed as input parameter to the getPaperReview method, and the recommendation of that paper has to be equal to recommended. I declare the connection object to connect to the database. I use the getConnection method, and I passed the host database, the user database, and the password database. Also, I declared a prepare select object, okay, using the prepared statement object, and then I execute my SQL query through the prepare select object and the execute query method. The value of this method returns a result set that is stored in the RS object. Then I go through my result set, and I capture all the values returned by my SQL query. Here I declare the review ID, the reviewer ID, variables, the paper ID, the merit score, the readability score, the originality score, the relevance score, and the recommendation. Finally, I display all these values on the screen. This is how the getPaperReviews works. The fourth method of my paper class is the add new paper method. This method inserts a new paper into the paper table. The input parameters that are passed to this method are the author email, the title, the abstract, and the file name. Then we have the SQL query, which is basically an insert into T-paper, and we pass all the input parameters to that query. Once again, I declare a connection object to my database. We got the prepared insert uh, object, which is based on the prepared statement object. Um, and using the prepared statement, we set all the parameters to that query. Okay, we got here the author email, the title, the abstract, and the file name. Finally, we execute the query through the execute update method, and we return the amount of records that were inserted into the T-paper table. Finally, we show on the screen how many records were added into the T-paper table.